All right, what's going on, you guys? Nick here with Nick's Strength and Power. So in this video, I wanted to talk about Jeff King. Now, I've already made one video on Jeff, and I kind of wanted to rehash that video and revisit the subject on why Jeff never became an IFBB pro bodybuilder. Because if you look at some of these photos I'm showing of Jeff, these are some very impressive photos of a bodybuilder who competed primarily in the 80s. And if you look at some of the IFBB competitors who competed in the 80s, Jeff stacks up very well next to most of these guys, if not all of these guys. And had he competed in the IFBB, who knows how far he would have been able to go with the level of conditioning that he brought, the size of his quads, and then the balance that his upper body had with the size of his legs. That was an issue a lot of bodybuilders ran into, was if they had massive legs, oftentimes their upper body did not match. But if you look at Jeff, his upper body was equally as impressive as his legs, and his conditioning was amazing as well. So Jeff King was also known as Neckzilla. If you look at these photos of his neck, man, his neck to head ratio is it's just crazy. His neck is actually wider than his head in some of these photos, so that's why he was known as Neckzilla. He was known for never skipping neck day. So again, he was known for having some massive quads. If you look at the sweep on the inner head of that quad, it was almost as impressive, if not more impressive, than Tom Platz's quad sweep. So he had some pretty impressive legs, and comparing him to Tom Platz, I mean, that's saying a whole lot. So this guy won quite a few shows, but the controversy there is that all of these shows were outside of the NPC and the IFBB, which he cites as the primary reason he never stepped foot on an IFBB stage. So I'll get to that in a minute. So he had, I believe, about half a dozen AAU shows, and AAU was kind of like the rival to the NPC at that point in time. So there was the AAU Mr. New Jersey. That was his first show ever, which he won that as a teenager. Then fast forward all the way until 1980, he won the AAU Teen Mr. America. 1982, he won the Collegiate Mr. America, also an AAU show. Then in 1983, this would be his most noteworthy title, the 1983 AAU Mr. America, which he won. So a lot of people say that's his best title and his best shape of all time. I believe that in 1983, he also won the NABA Mr. Universe, and apparently Mike Mentzer was at this universe competition, and he was known for yelling out at that show when Jeff King walked out. Mike Mentzer yelled out that he could walk onto the Olympia stage right then and there, having that condition and that size, and he could outmuscle everybody on the Olympia stage. So that's a pretty famous quote from Mike Mentzer coming to that Pro Universe competition and saying that Jeff King could outmuscle anyone on the Olympia stage had he gone to the IFBB, but that was simply not the case. We know that he never competed in the IFBB. So in an interview, he actually says that politics were the reason why he never competed in the IFBB. Weider couldn't put him on the cover of any magazines because he wasn't an NPC guy. Now, as we all know, the NPC is basically the stepping stone to the IFBB. Now, you can't compete in pretty much any organization without, going through the NPC to get to the IFBB. That's how it is now, period. So in the 80s, they were really making that shift to try to place a really big emphasis on that NPC to IFBB stepping stone. Prior to then, you had guys coming over from the AAU, guys coming over from NABA, and it was kind of an open, entry. There were a lot of guys coming from all over, just coming into the IFBB, primarily in the 60s and 70s. Then in the 80s, they really started to tighten down on that NPC to IFBB stepping stone. So at that point, Jeff King was not an IFBB guy. He was not an NPC guy. So Weider couldn't put him on the cover of any magazines, and he couldn't do the stepping stone of getting from the NPC to the IFBB because he was mostly successful in the NABA and the AAU competitions. And those are the politics that really held him back, was being so successful in NABA and so successful in the AAU. So in addition to that universe title that he won in 1983, he would also go on to win the NABA World Championships in 1984. He would compete in the NABA World Championships again in 1985, and he would place second. He would also do the NABA Universe in 87 again. He would place second there. And then he would do the WABBA World Championships and place second there in 1987. Then finally, in 1988, he would compete in the NABA Universe one last time, and he would place sixth there. So he was starting to fall off a little bit in terms of his placings. So if you look at these photos, like I said, Jeff King was obviously one of the best bodybuilders of the 80s, in my opinion, whether he was on an IFBB stage or not. I mean, Jeff King was just simply one of the most impressive guys out there. his conditioning, his vascularity, his legs, his neck, his upper body, just everything about Jeff King was as impressive, if not more impressive, than most of the crop of guys that were going through the IFBB at that time. So it's a real shame we never got to see what he would be able to do on the IFBB stage, because I think, honestly, this guy would have been a top 5 threat to the Olympia in any of those years in the 80s, especially the mid-80s. I think this guy would have been a top threat for sure to the top 5, top 6, no doubt in my mind, had he competed, especially that year in 1983 when he competed in that Mr. Universe competition that Mike Mentzer famously attended. I think had he competed in the 1983 Mr. Olympia, he could have placed top 6. So that is my opinion, guys. Let me know what you guys think of Jeff King in the comment section below. Is he perhaps the greatest bodybuilder to never turn pro in the IFBB? You got to think of guys like Matt Mendenhall, Roy Liedlmeyer. So Jeff King is definitely in that conversation for guys that never turned pro that probably could have been pretty damn good pros. So let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. Please give the video a thumbs up. Nick Strength and Power, signing out.